The newest set in the OCG, Infinite Forbidden, had some big announcements, and the most popular cards here are the Fiendsmiths. Fiendsmith is an archetype of light fiends that use their single main deck card and links as material to make powerful fusion monsters. To start, Fiendsmith itself is a level 6 light fiend that you can discard to add an archetypal spell trap to hand. You can revive it by shuffling back a light fiend from the graveyard and target a Fiendsmith equipped card and an opponent's monster to send them to the graveyard. Their searcher, Fiendsmith Tractus, adds a Fiendsmith monster from hand and discards a card, and can be banished to fusion summon a Fiendsmith monster from your hand or field. This sets up the combo by itself by searching Fiendsmith, discarding him for the spell Fiendsmith Sanctus, which summons a token and it resets itself if a Fiendsmith monster is destroyed by card effect. The second effect isn't going to resolve as much as you'd like since every deck has access to non-destruction removal, but not every wallet does, so good luck. With the token, you make the Link 1 Fiendsmith Requiem. You can only special summon it once per turn. You contribute it to summon a Fiendsmith from hand or deck, and you can equip from the graveyard a Fiendsmith to give it 600 attack. You can use the Fiendsmith's Revive effect to return the Link 1 to summon itself, and use Tractus's Graveyard effect to send both copies of the Fiendsmith to the graveyard to summon Fiendsmith Lacrimosa. This card reduces the attack of all opponent's monsters by 600, and once per turn it can revive or add the Fiendsmith to hand. When Lacrimosa is sent to the graveyard, you can shuffle back a light fiend to deal 1200 damage to your opponent. This is going to be really important in the TCG as the deck has a built-in way to win in time now, and that alone can cheese some wins at tournaments. Now, you can take your Lacrimosa and the newly revived Fiendsmith to make their Link 2, Fiendsmith Sequentia. This card allows you to fusion summon by returning monsters from your graveyard to the deck. You can also equip this card to a light fiend to give it targeting protection. You fuse away the two Fiendsmiths and Lacrimosa to end on Fiendsmith Dies Irae, which can quick effect negate face-up cards on the field up to the total link rating of monsters equipped to it. If it's sent to the graveyard in any way, you can shuffle one other light fiend to target and send one card to the graveyard. The trap, Fiendsmith in Paradisium, which targets a level 7 light fiend, then it Zeus's the entire board away. Its graveyard effect is if your opponent special summons a monster, you can mill a Fiendsmith from deck or extra deck, which means you can use Dies Irae to remove another card off your opponent's field. This card reads pretty crazy, but I'm a little unsure how often you'll be able to use it. So that's the cards as a whole. Overall, I truly believe this can be a potentially tier 1 engine. Now, these cards were just announced in the OCG, so by the time they get to America, we're gonna have plenty of time to hopefully hit some of the Snake Eyes cards dramatically, and hopefully we can get those hits pretty soon. If you want to know what I would hit right now, please like and subscribe, because the next video is about what I would want from a ban list that can realistically happen, but back to the video. So I said it could be a tier 1 engine, because right now there aren't enough cards to make this a full-blown strategy by itself. Even with some hand traps behind to make it work, it's just not enough to win. Instead, it's better to look towards the other light fiend decks and splash these Fiendsmith cards into them. The three we'll be looking at today are Magical Musketeers, Live Twin, and Fabled. Magical Musketeers are all light fiends, so splashing this into the end board is pretty damn easy. As a deck, they usually like going second and relying on Max to search or summon 3 to 5 times, but this typically gets interrupted too easily to see competitive play. Instead, this gives them some guaranteed interruption going first, and plenty of follow-up and resilience if they still plan on going second. Since the Fiendsmith combo does not use your normal summon, you can just do the standard Magical Musketeer setup after your Fiendsmith combo to give you some protection. A reminder that since the negates are only for face-up cards, this leaves you extremely vulnerable to Nibiru. Keep that in mind when we look over the next deck that can make this engine work. The Live Twin version of Fiendsmith looks infinitely more promising. With Live Twin, you can do it with just their starters. The combo is exactly the same as a normal Live Twin combo, but after you special summon your first Evil Twin and revive one, you go for Requiem, and you're able to end on Trouble Sunny and Dies Irae. This is probably the most consistent way to use the Fiendsmith engine, as it requires one main deck slot and a couple of extra deck ones, something Live Twin absolutely has the space for. The only issue here is I am not fully convinced this is a better way of playing it than just Live Twin Sprite, as that can end on 2 negates and more importantly can keep you safe through Nibiru. Still, there might be a world where you play all 3 engines in a crazy all-gas build, and it's something I'm gonna try in like 3 years from now when the cards come to Master Duel. The final use archetype people have been trying to splash it into is Fabled, and I don't really get it. They're the last light fiend archetype of the video, but we aren't necessarily going out with a bang. See, their entire entire game plan is based around effects on being discarded, so you're able to gain further advantage off of Tractus and offer material for the fusion spell and Sequentia. I'm gonna be real with you, off of day 1 or 2 testing, it seems like a bit of a gamble. The Fabled cards on their own are really bad. They're like a decade old, so it makes sense. The problem is when you try to do something like this, splashing a new engine in a very old archetype, a lot of games you might just not open it, and in that case, you're just playing a deck from 2010 against your opponent. The thing is, it can also high roll into some very strong boards with legacy support like Macrosia, and some of their older stronger cards like Grimro, Cerebrel, and Luri are strong non-once per turn effects, so it's fairly possible to swarm the field with these things and end on even stronger boards. Now, overall, I think the Fiendsmiths are quite good, and if we get any future support for it, we can easily have the next tier 1 deck on our hands. But for now, I think the best deck to splash it alongside is Live Twins. The main deck investment is minimal, so you can just splash Sprite alongside it to make some truly insane boards. And to clarify, technically you can splash this into any deck you want, since there's no hard restriction. A buddy of mine is trying it with pure Sprite, and any deck that's available space with it might be worth it to get some field presence. And while the negate isn't as flexible as Griffin Rider, it doesn't mess up your normal summon effect in the same way either. As far as I'm concerned, this engine absolutely will see some tournament topping list at some point. I truly believe in it. Thank you all for watching, please like and subscribe. This is Breadboy Weeb, signing out.